I want to talk about the broccoli people. As horrible as I feel for the broccoli people, are you laughing about the phrase broccoli people?
Yeah.
That's what everybody calls them.
We're not the men you thought we'd be. We're got instincts of humanity. Transform, X-Men, reporting seen and done. Transform, mutant, systems is final death. Now we're X-Men.
Hello, Flat Scans, and welcome to the X-Men. We are the next stage in human evolution. Two trans women exploring the X-Men. And my name is Beth.
And my name is Shawnee.
As you can see, today is a very solemn occasion as we do what we do every day, Shawnee. And what is that?
Let's talk about the X-Men, Beth.
Let's talk about X-Men, Shawnee, because we are here, we are capping off the Dark Phoenix saga. And I don't want to spoil it, but an X-Man will die.
What?
An X-Man will die. And we will never guess who it is. Thinking over the last couple of weeks, did we talk about Comic-Con?
Oh my gosh, we haven't talked about Comic-Con yet.
We haven't talked about Comic-Con. Maybe we talked about that we were going to Comic-Con, but we went to Comic-Con because last episode, we wore our cosplays from Comic-Con. Now, as somebody who has never been to a comic convention before, despite spending my whole life reading comics, I liked it. Shawnee, you were worried that maybe I wouldn't like it.
I was a little worried. The only cons that I've been to are PAX, which held in the same place, a lot of the same sort of vendors, but I gotta say, Comic-Con ruled. And sorry, PAX is great too, but I enjoyed it so much more than PAX.
We should clarify we're talking about Oz Comic-Con. We didn't fly out to Emerald City or San Diego, all right? We got recognized from the podcast by a couple of people, including one of the vendors. We got recognized from the band. They weren't aware of the podcast.
You got recognized just for being Beth Seymour.
That happens every day of my life, Shawnee. I love, we had a commenter on the TikTok who said, "Oh, I thought I saw you. I wondered if that was you." Those two trans women, one dressed as Emma Frost, one dressed as Magic. I tease. People always look different in person. For the record, if you ever see us out at a con or at a gig or something like that, you can come up and say hello. It's fine.
We're very friendly.
We could talk about it all day, but it was a really nice time. Other than that, we've had a few shows. Hormones had a launch show. We launched our vinyl the same day as Comic-Con. So I got to play the show dressed as Emma Frost. And fans of the pod may remember, this is not the first show that I have played dressed as Emma Frost. At that same venue even.
The exact same venue. And it won't be the last.
With the check-in out of the way, Shawnee, what are you wearing today?
This was my sort of attempt at stylish funeral attire. It's ended up quite gothic Lolita, actually. So I don't know whether this would be appropriate for a funeral, but it feels appropriate for this issue.
I'm on my second dress. I can't talk. I can't throw stones. I'm in a glass house over here. I was wearing a more reserved funeral dress, and I said, I need to wear something hotter for the pod. So I changed into a different black dress. Maybe that was my funeral dress. Didn't make it to air. This is my wake dress. How's that?
That's very nice. I feel awake now that this dress is out.
I think we're looking good. I like to think we're always the two best dressed women in the room, but at a funeral particularly.
You know, even when we attend a funeral, like, we're eating it up.
If any of you plan on dying, make sure your family invites us.
It'll boost the cred of the event.
We'll do a Xavier's graveyard on you and everything.
People will forget you even died. They'll be having such a good time that we're there.
This is one of our weirdest jokes ever, and I love it. But that's the kind of headspace we're in, because this is going to be an emotional roller coaster of an episode, Shawnee. Don't you agree?
Oh, yeah. I'm not prepared, but I know that we've just got to jump in and understand the rule. Crying on the pod is allowed.
Crying on the pod is allowed, and it's encouraged. We are both running high on emotions today, and it will probably happen sooner rather than later.
Agreed. And wherever you are listening to this pod, you are allowed to cry at that location too. Maybe not if you're operating heavy machinery. Maybe finish up your job and then listen to the pod just so you don't get your vision impaired.
Forklift certified people got feelings too. Today we're reading X-Men issues 135 to 137 and a little bonus treat from another special issue that we'll talk about a bit later on. So these are the closing 3 issues of the Dark Phoenix saga, not including the Aftermath issue, which is 138. And the only reason for that is because it wasn't included in the trade paperback I had when I was young. So I don't count it as part of the saga.
He's me learning that it exists for the first time.
It's like an epilogue. We're going to read it next episode anyway, aren't we?
Well, we don't need an epilogue. We're doing the epilogue ourselves.
Oh, actually, next episode we did talk about doing a Q&A. If you are on our Patreon subscribers, for $3 Australian per month, you get access to special outtakes episodes, but also you'll have priority questions for when we do a Q&A episode. We may open it up to the wider public, but we'll be a lot more selective about the questions that we get asked. But just know, Patreon subscribers get first dibs for the Q&A portion. It could be X-Men related. It could be related to anything as long as it's not weird.
You can get a little weird, but just don't get like icky weird with it.
X-Men weird, not like Tarot Witch of the Black Rose weird. Is that reference lost on you, Shawnee?
Oh yeah, but I feel like I'm dressed like whatever that is.
It's... Nah, you know what? I'll explain it to you later. It's a very saucy comic.
Oh.
Anyway, when last we left our heroes, they had just escaped the clutches of the Hellfire Club, defeating the Hellfire Club's inner circle after Jean had been brainwashed into becoming their Black Queen. She overcame her Hellfire Club programming, took revenge on Jason Wingard Mastermind, and the X-Men escaped, only for in the final moments of our last issue to see Jean transform into Dark Phoenix and explode the X-Men's ship. And that's where we are right now. Shall we hit the synopsis?
Oh, let's hit it.
Play the music. Aboard the X-Men's ship, one of them, I forget what this one's called, they got too many, we witness the birth of a god. Jean Grey is transformed from Phoenix into Dark Phoenix, which is much cooler than when we had evil Professor Xavier, let's be honest. Much cooler. And her first act in this new persona is the destruction of those she loves best in the world, the X-Men. A battle rages through Central Park, but the X-Men find themselves overpowered at every turn against the powers of this cosmic entity. Without remorse, Dark Phoenix cuts down all of her friends one by one as a huge phoenix form flares above Central Park, witnessed by Sebastian Shaw of the Hellfire Club and presidential candidate Senator Robert Kelly, who discuss the return of the Sentinels as a tool the government can use against the mutant threat after the chaos at the Hellfire Club in the last issue. With the X-Men defeated, Phoenix has cut the last ties binding her to the person that she used to be, and she leaves Earth, blasting off into space. Beast arrives too late to aid the X-Men as Jean is already gone. Dark Phoenix tears across the galaxy at unmatchable speed, but she hungers for more power. To sustain herself, she enters the heart of the star Debari and devours it entirely. However, the system is an inhabited one, and with this act, Jean has committed genocide, wiping out the 5 billion inhabitants of this system. A Shi'arr Imperial cruiser witnesses the star exploding and reports back to its home system before it itself is engulfed, transmitting an image of the Dark Phoenix as it is engulfed in flames. The Empress Lilandra is awoken in her chambers and is informed of what it has transpired. Something she has feared from the beginning and prayed she'd never have to face has come to pass, and she declares the threat must be dealt with at once. Back on Earth, the X-Men lick their wounds, with Scott Summers sitting in stoic silence. That is, until, through the psychic rapport he shares with Jean, he senses that the Phoenix is returning to Earth, and once again, she hungers. That's a lot of stuff in that first issue, isn't there?
And it's only going to get more from here, I fear.
We got 2 more parts in this storyline.
I know. And one of them's twice as long.
That's true. We are going to synopsify. I really got to look up what that word is. 137 separately. We'll talk about these 2 issues, and then we'll get to 137 after. So let me do 136, and we'll do some ups, downs, and X's. You listeners out there, you've earned it. The Shi'arr meet at Imperial Center and declare the Phoenix must be destroyed. The President of the United States calls the Avengers and finds no one there to respond to the immense energy force of unknown origins approaching Earth. Meanwhile, the X-Men prepare for Jean's return. Jean Grey descends to Earth at her parents' home in Annandale-on-Hudson. Sneaking into her childhood home, her parents and her sister wake to meet her. Within them, she senses their fear about what she has become, and she lashes out at them. Her father declares that she's no child of his, and casts her out. Before Jean can do anything in response, a fog forms outside the house. The X-Men have arrived. As Jean blasts into the sky, Nightcrawler appears and attaches a mnemonic scrambler onto Jean's head, created by Beast, that's intended to stop her accessing her psychic powers. Even with this handicap, the X-Men find her still to be too powerful for them, and she tears through them one by one. Wolverine launches towards her with his claws bared, and knows that he has to end this permanently before she can do any more damage. Jean's true personality resurfaces and tells him that he needs to do it before she hurts him. But this causes him to hesitate, and Dark Phoenix returns, blasting Logan away and tearing off the scrambler. With the X-Men captured in a telekinetic force field, Jean declares there isn't anything human remaining in her, but this is when Cyclops arrives. He asks why, with all her power, she has defeated the X-Men but not killed them. And he tells her that this is because of the love she still has inside for him and for her family. As Cyclops is getting through to her, Charles Xavier appears from behind and attacks her with a mind blast. You can say something. Go on.
Charles Xavier.
Thank you. We got plenty of that later. He attacks her with a mind blast, and the Dark Phoenix personality resurfaces, and she tears into battle against Chuck. Locked in psychic battle, Charles works to create psychic bonds that will imprison the Dark Phoenix within Jean's mind. It is only with the help of Jean's true personality within her subconscious that they succeed, and Phoenix falls back to Earth, Jean Grey once more. Scott Summers tears towards her, thinking to himself that however this has changed Jean, he will love her just the same, for better or worse, richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, till death do they part. Jean awakens, having sensed these thoughts, saying it sounded like a proposal. Scott agrees and asks what she has to say, and she says yes. With the young lovers engaged, the X-Men believe that this might finally be over, but in that moment, they are teleported off Earth, with the next issue promising the end of an epic, the fate of the Phoenix.
Well done, girl.
Do you smoke after I don't know, baby. I never checked.
Oh, damn. I could barely get through that. I don't know how you got through that having to talk.
Listening back to that later, I'm sure I'm going to hear myself getting very choked up, huh?
I think it's fair to say we were pretty invested in these issues.
Yeah, this is, Shawnee, kind of the culmination of this first era of X-Men, of everything that we've read so far, not including the 60s X-Men.
Yeah.
Everything from Giant Size has been building to this. The big major events in Claremont's run are the season finales. And yeah, there'll be things that linger from this, but this storyline is where it's all coming to a head, and we'll start focusing on new things after. So this is an epic for a reason.
I felt it. It felt really special. It felt like one of those arcs when you're watching a TV show that's like maybe like a young adult show that's sort of like more episodic, but all of a sudden you get a string of episodes that are all flowing into each other, and then a major thing happens and you're like, I just thought I was watching funny, silly heroes doing funny, silly adventures.
I like Degrassi as well.
Or Degrassi, of course. Our favorite show of the pod.
My favorite show ever. All right, let's get into the ups. The covers of every issue that we are looking at across this arc are epic and iconic and will be referenced 1 million times in future issues. On 135, we see a giant, overpowered Jean crushing the X-Men logo. If you pay attention to the cover of 136, that logo is still cracked. And we gotta just address the cover of 136 in itself. Scott holding the unconscious Jean in his arms, screaming at the sky, looking devastated. Possibly the most iconic X-Men cover of all time.
Nobody screams at the sky while devastated like Scott does.
That is the defining image of Claremont's run, isn't it?
It really is. It's ever since not Giant Size, the issue afterwards, we commented on it. So that was where Scott was starting.
What's your first up?
We've said previously that we're going to try and cut down from making it up about every single panel that we like because we'll be talking for 5 hours. But I did fail this immediately on page 1 of issue 135. The tiny jet being cracked in half in the middle of the page with the lettering Dark Phoenix formed in the huge explosion around it.
Yes.
Sets the tone for these 3 issues. It is pedal to the metal from page 1.
I love the way that those enormous Dark Phoenix letters flare out from the exploding shit. Again, like this synergy of lettering into the artwork that we've complimented a few times. That one is one of the best we've seen. It makes the story feel epic from the first page. Across all the issues we're looking at today, there's several scenes where the X-Men have to try and stop Jean. And I think they do a really good job of showing the X-Men's internal conflict of not really wanting to hurt her. They use a lot of thought bubbles to convey this, which really, is a pretty outdated method now in modern comics. They're more replaced with narration boxes. But to have this omniscient narrator, right? There's not one narrator telling the story and we only see their thoughts. We see all the X-Men's thoughts at different times. And this is where it's used to maximum effect because it's this nice layer to the characterization. Jean is using her telepathy the whole time the X-Men are having this internal conflict. So this happens loads of time across this story. One of them will think something like, how can I do this to Jean? And she'll respond to them in conversation to whatever they're thinking. I think it adds a nice little effect to the character of Dark Phoenix is that there's no difference between internal and external thoughts to her. She is hearing every thought all the time.
Wow. That isn't something that occurred to me immediately, but you are absolutely right. That's such a good device.
The X-Men are so confused about what's happening and why. And that's what a lot of these internal monologues and the things that they're saying out loud convey. They don't understand what's happening with Jean. This is one I particularly love. Scott says, "Why are you attacking us? For pity's sake, Jean, why?" And she says, "Ask not for pity from Dark Phoenix, my love. There is none in her." We get this clear understanding that Dark Phoenix is separate from Jean, but also understand that needing to cut down the X-Men is what frees her to go off into space and be a Dark Phoenix and seek out that power she desires. Aurora does a good job of explaining this difference in Jean because she witnessed her going full Phoenix mode before when she saved the universe. She says that back then her powers were tempered by joy and love, but now there's no joy and no love. There's only pain, great sadness, and an awful, all-consuming lust in Dark Phoenix. I know this is a bit of a long up, but the reactions of the X-Men, their shock, their betrayal, that is what helps this resonate so firmly because this is a family we've seen develop since Giant Size X-Men, and now one of their own is trying to kill them all, and we have to see how they cope with that.
Yes, this is going to lead into when we do eventually discuss the ending and how it all played out and the fact that it was a little different originally and why I think where we landed with it revolving around what the X-Men's perceptions of their relationship with Jean is and how they grapple with what's going on being one of the strongest points of the whole thing.
And they all have differing levels of understanding here.
Yeah.
Aurora's understanding of what the Dark Phoenix is very different to Scott's. Because Scott wasn't conscious when Jean knitted the universe back together inside the M-Crown crystal. So that's what Aurora saw. But Aurora hasn't been there within the psychic rapport and experiencing what was going on with Jason Wingard.
True.
Logan, Kurt, Colossus, they're probably more stumped than anyone, but they love Jean like a sister. That's why all their reactions to what's going on are so diverse and hit in different ways.
A little double up for my boyfriend Kurt during this first scene as the team is falling from the freshly exploded jet. First off, it's so funny that he calls out the fact that yet another aircraft has been destroyed. At this point, it's rarer for an aircraft to not explode if the X-Men are near it. Second, sorry, I'm going to nerd out about a power again. We all know I love to do this.
Do it!
Thank you. We learned way back during their first mission as a team, when they were falling from the sky from yet another exploded jet, that Kurt can't just teleport to the ground when he's falling because he'll appear at the same velocity that he was traveling and get smooshed. But this time, he teleports to a few feet above the ground, shooting himself horizontally into some bushes. Like, this kind of thing, I love it so much because it's not just evidence of the writers honoring the sort of laws that they're making about these powers, but it's evidence that the team is growing. They're finding methods and strategies of how to use their powers in different ways that previously would have stumped them, but now they can overcome these new challenges.
Definitely. I think that's something that Claremont and Byrne both really shine with, is that just because these characters have these powers, it's not just, I teleport and that's it. Like 2 episodes ago, where Kurt did the bamf across the panel in seconds and hit all the guards, or Cyclops' geometry with his optic blast, or all the million different things they can do with Jean or Storm's powers. They're able to keep it fresh and interesting because, of course, they would come up with new ways to use those powers.
That's it. I mean, they're training every day very hard, whether they want to or not.
Thanks, Scotty. I would love to talk about how our creative team is cooking, because Claremont is doing this good job of conveying this sort of sensual component of Jean's lust for power, saying things about Dark Phoenix like summoning the lightning, laughing as the awesome bolt of energy caresses her body like a lover. And I think it helps us build this understanding and ties into this theme of what the Dark Phoenix is to them, which I'm going to speak about at length at the end of the episode. I'm not tipping my hat too early. That prose combined with what we see from John as he's illustrating Phoenix. Phoenix comes across like a force of nature. The big stupid idiot is cooking. This entire sequence of Jean tearing through space. For starters, Jean's eyes fully white. She looks possessed and terrifying. But there's a terrifying beauty to how she's portrayed in that she looks so glamorous and feminine, but also has these psychotic expressions on her face. And he's good at faces, even when the faces are losing expression, losing the pupils in the eyes, losing details to shadow. That's being used to maximum effect. But then she's also constantly surrounded by cosmic energy, and it culminates in that gorgeous sequence where she flies into the middle of the sun and eats it and effectively not effectively, she does commit a genocide. This sequence of 4 or 5 pages, it's a huge chunk of the issue, is absolutely stunning. And I just don't have enough time to go through and explain every panel that I love here because it's all of it.
Yep, I'll agree with every single point there. Everything about how Phoenix is depicted during this opening fight is illustrated so beautifully. From her dramatic poses to her wild hair emulating flames to the crackling purple and black energy emitting from the bright yellow core surrounding her, she just feels so powerful. So I really do want to give some snaps to Terry Austin, our inker, and the colorist Bob Sharon for their work here. And I guess Burn the Worm can have one little snap too.
I love that you're going in and reading all the credits now.
I'm making it my thing.
You're better than me. I want to talk about the broccoli people. As horrible as I feel for the broccoli people who have just been wiped out of all existence, oh my god, isn't this just an epic sequence in terms of art, narration, storytelling? We see those who witnessed their planet's destruction. A young broccoli person holding onto their mother as the others scream towards the sky. And the narration says they try to make peace with their god. On the next page, as we see the planet disintegrate, we get some great narration that the ones who die in their sleep are the lucky ones. Just incredible stuff. Are you laughing about the phrase broccoli people?
Yeah.
That's what everybody calls them.
Oh, it's brought some nice levity to what is a really harrowing event, so thank you.
Oh yeah, they extincted the broccoli people.
They got Alderaan.
That's remember Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, the broccoli lady? She's turning into broccoli.
That's what I thought of.
The spores have been released from the destruction of Dubari.
Oh no!
When did this happen? 1980.
Oh no!
What year is Dark Place set?
The 80s.
The 80s, after Dark Phoenix. Certainly not 1980.
Dark Phoenix, Dark Place. Coincidence?
Why did I put the emphasis on 19, like as if it's going to be like, no, 1880? It don't matter. It don't matter none.
Have you finished your up about the broccoli people?
You want to say anything about the broccoli people?
Yeah.
Go off, Queen.
I just want to say, like, the scene... I'm going to undercut my whole beautiful up. The scene of Phoenix consuming the star, son of the broccoli people, is as awe-inspiring as it is harrowing. The black dark side of the planet suspended in space, gradually smothered in bright pink and yellow flames. It's actually a stunningly beautiful piece of artwork, and the juxtaposition of that beauty against the horrific knowledge that 5 billion people have just been killed in the blink of an eye is just so affecting as a reader. It took my breath away while I was reading it. I just think this moment is the perfect summary of what Dark Phoenix is. It's overwhelming beauty and passion on the one side and a horrifying display of apocalyptic power on the other. This is the moment that our sympathy for Phoenix reaches the point of no return, and it's an absolute gut punch.
And there's going to be so much to unpack with this once the other X-Men find out about it too.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that's the best way to describe what Phoenix is. It's the beauty of destruction. She exists to destroy with this cleansing fire and take all power for herself. But you kind of look at her doing it and you're like, thank you, mommy.
Thank you, mommy. That's it, right? Because she's out here. She didn't purposely think, I'm going to off a bunch of broccolis. She was just a hungry girl. And let me tell you, as someone who has just upped their estrogen dose, relate.
Oh, how much protein is in the broccoli people, do you think?
Oh, so much.
So much?
She should have just absorbed the broccoli planet. That would have been like the power of 15 suns.
Oh my God, her iron levels are going to be through the roof. All right.
What's your next up?
I really love all the X-Men just sitting around the kitchen of the mansion after being absolutely owned by Phoenix.
Yeah.
Owned like the noobs they are, whatever that means. I heard that somewhere. It's kind of funny to have all the others just talking about Scott as if he's not a meter away from them. But Scott looks so wrecked with his head in his hands. But they need to be there to react to him popping up in a flash and declaring that Phoenix is coming back and she's hungry.
She's hungry. Same girl.
I never not been hungry in my life.
Never.
So I'll allow them not being subtle around Scott and his feelings because what a great page.
Great page.
What do you got for me?
Back when Jean saved the universe within the M-Crown crystal, we had a bit of a discussion about how many pages of the issue were taken up with unnecessary cutaways from other superheroes. Looking at you, Yellow Jacket. This time, I appreciate that we only have half a page of Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and Silver Surfer all expressing their fear when they sense Phoenix leaving the atmosphere. I like that this brings scale to the story, that it's such a big event, it leaks into the other corners of the Marvel world, but without holding up the momentum like last time.
I respect your opinion.
Beth, don't worry. We also get Dr. Corbeau chiming in.
Why are you trying to access my downs early? I'm saving them. And you know what? I don't remember what I said about the cameos. When I get to it in my notes, we'll find out.
Great.
Maybe I liked it. I don't know. There's a lot of galactic politics throughout these issues. I'm not upping the galactic politics. I am the Senate, kind of stuff. Like, what I'm here for is we just get a bunch of freaky looking aliens all sitting in a room together, Go off. I love a page of freaks.
I love it so much. In fact, I do have things to say about galactic politics when we get to the next issue.
Awesome. Is it about the freaks?
Of course, it's about the freaks.
Yeah,
With
it's not about any of the
pro-freakia.
politics. It's just about a bunch of weird-looking dudes all sitting in a room together. Some of them on TV screens and
Oh, I wish I was there.
What's your next up?
Guess who likes another opening page of another issue, 136? We've got ourselves a bright pink, fiery phoenix crushing a sun in its claws. And it's another example of an abstract piece of art that beautifully communicates the level of power and destruction and beauty that we're dealing with in this story. I really want to shout out at this point Glenys Wein, because she's the colorist of this issue and also the next one. The way she uses pink across these issues, oh, mwah, 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 mwah. Not enough chefs in the world to kiss.
You said guess who, and I didn't even get a chance to guess. It turns out it was Shawnee.
It was me.
It was Shawnee.
It
I
was
should have
me.
known. But she said
You
guess
should've.
who, and I was sitting there through the first half of that being like, who is... Oh, she's talking about herself.
When she... But thanks for looking.
I wonder how pink those pinks are, or like if it's like the bad scans that you
Have I
read
done it
also.
again? Are they
Maybe it's meant to be
purple
red.
or something? Oh my god.
Let's check it against the Marvel Unlimited version and find out.
The pink looks great.
The pink, I'm sure it does look great. I really want to know. Now I'm curious about the scan thing. Shawnee,
Yeah, Beth.
the president is in this issue, Jimmy Carter, and he's demanding for the Avengers to deal with this energy force that is approaching the Earth, and it's all written in his accent. So I would like to hear Shawnee read this with a presidential accent, as the audience has requested before that they would like to hear more of.
Oh my gosh, I mean, the honor. If the audience so demands it, I guess I can read maybe one little speech bubble.
I knew you would have practiced and you have it ready to go.
Mr. Jarvis, I understood that an Avenger was always supposed to be on monitor duty. I've been calling for some time without a response. Avenger is spelled Avengejuh. Ah, how was I supposed to resist?
I got no words. That was art. was
Thank
art.
you. Thank you for indulging me.
Unlike last time that Scott thought he had lost Jane, where he truly locked himself off from his feelings, we are now actually seeing him grapple with his emotions. And while he's working in the lab on the mnemonic scrambler with Beast and Aurora, he has thought balloons that say, while he would like Storm to comfort him, he can't give in because if he gives into his feelings, he'll shatter and he has to stay in control. So he's being Scott about it, but this time he genuinely feels like he's lost Jean. And I can feel the palpable, tangible difference between this and her first suspected death.
Yes, I think you're exactly right with that. Like, Scott is teetering on the edge of a knife for these whole issues.
Oh, and speaking of people who are teetering on the edge of a knife for this whole issue, Shawnee always gives me dibs on the family trauma stuff. And I got... Reading this part of the synopsis, which I'm about to get to, I was holding it together, and I am ready to talk about it, and I will do my best. For those who don't know, or who have never listened to our band, I don't really have a relationship with my parents. The less said about that, the better. But obviously, scenes like this affect me. Since Jean has become Dark Phoenix, the subtext of what her identity represents has been a lot harder to connect with because of this idea of her giving into her dark impulses. However, the scene where she arrives home to her parents' house is very moving for me because it seems like no matter what she's become, she still feels this connection to who she was, and maybe the subconscious part of Jean is trying to use that to reconnect with who she used to be instead of the Phoenix. When she arrives, we even see her giving a bit of humor to her father when he asks who's there, and she says, "Would you believe the Wicked Witch of the West?" And while her family seem happy to see her on the surface, she can sense what they're truly feeling. And that fear of what she's become sends her off the deep end. She senses her sister's fear that because her sister is a mutant, her children might be mutants, and that's what makes her snap and lash out at her parents. So it's very easy to make a queer reading on this scene because it's like I've said before, sometimes there are people on the surface who try to act like they understand and accept you, but really they have all these internal fears of what it means to them for you to be the way you are. That's heartbreaking. And then sometimes there's people who, when they find out what you really are, they can't deal with it at all. And her father, when he sees her demonstrate her powers and lash out, does this. He says, "Who are you? What are you? In heaven's name, what do you want from us?" And Jean says, "I am what I am. I was your daughter." And sometimes losing people from your life feels like that. Like, even though you used to be a certain thing to them, you can't be that thing anymore. Like, I was your daughter, she says, but she is no longer. And you can't always be what you were to them, even though that's what they see you as, and that's what they would accept you as. And he casts her out immediately after lashing out, and we see her with a thought balloon of the real Jane inside, who says, "Dad, no, please." Again, it's devastating. And I like that this interaction doesn't overstay its welcome and lose its significance from her lashing out at her parents any further. Because there's that temptation with this Dark Phoenix storyline and character. You know, if she did something really horrible to her parents, we couldn't make this parallel. But because it is so short, it resonated with me in this way. And that's what I have to say about that scene.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Beth. I really, really appreciated hearing your perspective on that, having that unique perspective. And I'm sorry that situations happen that means you do have that perspective about it. But I think it's a really valuable thing to talk about and an important thing. And I appreciate you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming to my therapy session.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to talk about this scene. I have a bit of a different perspective than what Beth has experienced, but I know that she's put the whole thing more eloquently than I ever could. I find this scene really affecting. And what I will say is that for a scene that... You okay, girl?
Just let me sit with the veil on for a minute.
That's fine. All right, I'm going to cut back in.
Keep talking.
For a scene that would make almost no difference to the plot, whether it was here or not, I think it's one of the most important scenes in the entire 3 issues. And the scene to me that most encompasses Jean's duality and singularity with the Phoenix. Jean herself is unsure why she came home. She's at the peak of her Phoenix powers. She's literally just killed 5 billion people, blown up a battle cruiser, and what does she immediately do straight afterwards? She goes home to the people that are supposed to love her unconditionally. And to me, this scene is an important example that the tiny embers inside of Dark Phoenix that represents Jean's humanity are still here, and they are craving reassurance that she is still a person worthy of love. Tragically, her powers are so strong now that she can't turn off reading their concerns as fear. And we see Jean wrestling with herself to the point that the Phoenix side of her starts to lash out, as if to challenge them and prove that there is a limit to their conditional love. And I think a lot of us who have struggled with warped perceptions of ourselves can really resonate with this kind of feeling when you truly believe the worst about yourself, but people who care about you are telling you it's not true. It can result in lashing out because you don't have the ability to articulate what you're actually feeling and going through. So you challenge them to see you at your worst because it's the closest thing to truth that you have. And this is obviously not a healthy thing to do in this situation, but when you're grappling with negative feelings that you can't express until you're able to confront them, you latch onto anything that validates them. And for Jean, these negative feelings are the Dark Phoenix. And the Dark Phoenix is validating its own existence by pushing her parents away. It's a really upsetting moment when Jean's dad recognizes that this side of her isn't his daughter and casts her out. And it's one of those tricky things where the metaphor becomes entangled, right? Because in this instance, yes, there is literally a negative entity inside Jean that has threatened his loved ones. But as we've been reminded multiple times by the text at this point, Jean and Phoenix are also one entity. A duality and a singularity. And so for Jean, in this moment, she is experiencing her father rejecting his daughter in her time of turmoil because he perceives her to be evil. Her worst fears manifested. And as a result, it's understandable that for this moment, her humanity has been defeated and smothered yet again.
That was wonderful, Shorty. I can't say anything else about it. Okay. Unconditional love can, in fact, be very conditional. So, regardless of the evil that exists inside Jean, her family don't know about that. Like, her family, they raised her as a goddamn teenager. They've seen her lash out before. They've seen her throw a tantrum before. The difference now is as it was when they first learned about the Phoenix powers. They're scared of her being a mutant. And they're scared of her being different. Now, she's trying to make them react that way. I totally agree with you. But she doesn't do anything that bad. What'd she do? Turn a pot plant to crystal? Yeah. You know? Your family is supposed to love you unconditionally.
Yes.
Yes, it is scary to see your child turn a pot plant into crystal. That would be confronting. But to say, what are you? And I cast you out?
Yeah.
We see Jean begging her dad internally not to cast her out. Because, like you said, this is her last connection to who she was. But it's one of those things that who made the choice? Jean or the Phoenix? Jean to make the connection to who she was and save herself? Or the Phoenix to bait her there and destroy that last connection? Because she knows deep down that her parents would react this way. And that's bullshit, dog. What's her dad's name? John? Bet it's John. John Gray?
John Gray, the most bland name of all time.
If it's something different, put it on screen. But let's move on.
Let's move on.
I loved your essay.
Thank you.
And I'm back now. And those are my thoughts on it.
I love those thoughts.
But we had a little break that was edited out, and I actually don't remember that much of what she said. So I think if that didn't match up, blame my stupid tears. Okay. We have a battle between Jean and Aurora, where Jean says that Storm is as close to her as her own sister, but she'll strike her down. Aurora begs her to stop in the name of the love that they share, and Jean responds that in the name of the love they shared, she will weep over her grave. And I think that this loss of found family affects me as much as the potential loss of Jean's real family. Families are just people you share blood with. The found family are the people who became her family because they share something in common. The X-Men are a family. They're closer than they are to their real families. Jean and Storm are sisters, you know? They're closer than Jean and Sarah.
She says as much.
The fact that Jean would be willing to cut down Aurora so soon after this other interaction kind of illustrates that cutting that tie with her real family gave her, you know, in The Force Awakens where Kylo's like, I know what I gotta do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it. And then he kills his dad.
Yeah.
It's that.
It's that. That's right.
And Force Awakens is a good movie. Sue me.
I like it. I like it a lot.
I like that one.
That scene made me have little tear prickles, and that's before I transitioned, and it was very, very hard for me to cry.
Real on real.
It's not news to anyone that I am a huge lover of Storm and Jean's friendship. And that beautiful but tragic moment that Beth was just talking about, when Storm is pleading with her and saying, in the name of the love we share, let us help you. And when Phoenix responds, in the name of the love we shared, Aurora, I will weep over your grave. On the surface level, right, that reads as a stone cold villain line. But when you actually absorb it, Phoenix is admitting that yes, she will kill Storm, but also she will weep for doing it. And it's yet another great example of Jean and the Phoenix, two entities, one entity. She's ready to kill her friends, but she will feel every emotion about losing them that Jean would feel. And Jean and Storm don't get a lot of time together within these issues. So it was really important to me that even though it was very small, they did get to have this moment.
Well, the Phoenix Force is kind of like the dark side. Here we go.
Here we go. Bring it back.
Because she is giving into emotions. The Phoenix Force has not cut Jean off from her relationships and her emotions. She still loves the X-Men. She's saying repeatedly that she's not human anymore. But is she saying that she doesn't love them anymore? She still feels those emotions. I bet there's a panel that contradicts me here, but whatever. She feels those emotions so strongly, but there's a ruthlessness that the desire for power outweighs the pain of any loss that she would experience in the pursuit of this power. And is that sounding very familiar, right?
Yes.
It is the dark side. This is 1980. Did this issue come out after Empire? Who knows?
We all know Claremont is a big Star Wars boy.
And he had Death Stars before George Lucas did.
He sure did. You're welcome, George.
I love Star Wars.
It's so good, though.
You all out there in the audience, did you know I love Star Wars? I love Star Wars so much.
Surprise!
I just talk about it in every episode. And weird EU shit all the time. I've confused the issue here. My point was that she still feels those emotions and those relationships strongly. She will weep over the graves, but it won't stop her. She'll carry that burden with her forever. My last thing to say, though, about like Phoenix and the desire for power in those relationships is what is guilt to a god? Jean is a god. If there is a god somewhere out there, they create suffering. Jean creates suffering. Surely there would be guilt that comes with that. And the knowledge that you've committed these atrocities, that you've killed 5 billion people, that you've tried to murder your loved ones. But in the scheme of things, she'll bear that cross, but it won't stop her pursuit of what she wants. And that's what the Phoenix Force sort of is. But I'm going to talk about that more later. Because where does the Phoenix Force end and where does Jean begin? Where does Jean end and the Phoenix Force begin? When Logan tries to cut Jean down, he says he has no option but to cut her down permanently because everyone keeps thinking of Dark Phoenix as Jean. This is a great scene because we see Jean resurface, but the thing to notice here is that all of Jean's speech bubbles now are those jagged Phoenix speech bubbles. So when Jean tells him to do it and finish her while she's still in control, is this actually Jean resurfacing? Or is it a trick? It's like with Jean's parents who made that decision to go back to the house. Did Jean make the decision or did Phoenix make the decision? Is the real Jean actually resurfacing? Or is Dark Phoenix using this as a ploy to create an opening against Logan? We get this shocked expression from Logan thinking that it's Jean, but there's no way for us to ever know if that actually was Jean resurfacing in that moment. Because it's not till the next issue that we get confirmation that Jean and Dark Phoenix are two entities inhabiting the same body. Up until now, we've seen Jean and Phoenix as one. But now it's starting to be played as two different personalities. And I think that's really interesting. And it's that ambiguity. Like, there's so much to get out of it the more times you read it. Because I've read this story 20, 30 times, and it's never occurred to me until this time that maybe that wasn't Jean resurfacing.
Oh, see, this is so interesting. And it is why, I agree. My favorite thing about these entire issues is this theme of where Jean ends and Phoenix begins. I can go into it later, but like my baseline theory is that what Phoenix is because of Jean. Jean's thoughts and Jean's desires are impacting the personality that the Phoenix has as an abstract entity. We're going to get really bogged down if I talk about it anymore. So let's just say I like that there is ambiguity.
Now, I know you want to talk about this next thing too,
Mm-hmm.
because Scott is noticeably absent from the second battle with the X-Men. And when he finally arrives, she says she was wondering when he was going to turn up. That whole battle after they appear outside her parents' house, we are waiting for Scott to appear, but he's not there. He turns up when things look dire. He just swans up. He says he's come to talk, and if she won't listen, then just kill him. But he points out to her that she's had so many chances to kill the X-Men, but she hasn't, because clearly there's a part of her that still loves them, and they love her back, and this really seems like it's starting to get through to her. And she talks about how she just has to keep doing what she's doing because she has this hunger inside her now beyond all comprehension that is consuming her. This exchange, I think, is the fundamental essence of this storyline.
Agreed. Yes. I really love this scene, both for the romantic element that it brings, that Cyclops is so determined to save the woman that he loves. He knows he's in danger, but he also believes so strongly that Jean is a being of love and that she can't exercise that part of herself because it's fundamentally who she is. He manages to reach her because he says, for the love of the X-Men, you sacrificed your life. For the love of me, you resurrected yourself. For the love of the whole universe, you almost died a second time to save it. He's such a girlfriend boy. I love Scott. But this does manage to stall her briefly, enough with her to plead with him, like you said, that also she hungers for a joy, a rapture beyond all comprehension. That need is a part of her too. And yes, the Phoenix is amplifying and causing all those feelings, but they clearly exist within Jean to an extent also, I think, because to flip side Scott's praise, her being constantly expected to put her own needs second for everyone else is part of why that feeling is so strong within her. I like that she addresses that need is part of me too. The whole situation is a lot more complicated than just magic bird make Jean evil. And I like that about the story.
I got one more up. The battle's over. I'm not talking about Charles Xavier right now. He can wait. The battle's over. Jean falls back to Earth. Scott rushes over to her thinking he's running through a wedding proposal in his head. It's one of the most moving and heartbreaking things because you know this story is ultimately doomed to tragedy. We see this beautiful, smiling face of Jean looking up at Scott saying, hi, and him responding, hi yourself, before she asks him about the proposal and they decide they're going to get married and kiss. And this messes me up every time. And I read this issue a few times getting myself ready for this episode. He doesn't care if she's changed after being Dark Phoenix. He says he'll love her just the same. It's about being in love with a person and not the packaging they're in. Like loving your partner just the same after they come out as trans, no matter what. And I cried so much reading this scene over and over again because it's the opposite of the interaction with the parents.
Yeah.
Because their love isn't unconditional. Scott's is. Scott, he knows, like, the horrible things she's done, and he's scared by it, but he's not turned away by it. He wants to save her. Her family should want to save her.
Yeah.
But they don't. Scott, he loves Jean, whoever she is and whatever she's done, until death do they part. And, you know, this is a Shakespearean tragedy right now. We read this panel knowing they're not going to make it, and that's devastating.
Makes it more beautiful. That's all I can say about their relationship right now.
With that said, let's get into the downs. We've talked for an hour about the ups, I'm sure. Let's get through this. There's a lot of cameos across these issues that try to demonstrate the grand scale of what this means in the Marvel Universe. Marvel is a shared universe. All the comics are intertwined. Anyone could appear in anyone's comic at any time. we see the Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Silver Surfer. And I get what it's going for, but since they don't play into the story at all, this one's not so egregious. Next issue, I'll talk about it. It just takes me out of it. Like, you have to just accept that that's part of comics, but the scale of the story that we're working at here, it ain't nothing to me. I don't give a shit how Spider-Man feels about what's going on with Dark Phoenix. Worst of all, Peter Corbeau pops up. I thought we were done with him. It's only a few panels, but get rid of this man. I don't like cameos. Everybody knows by now I don't like cameos.
Yeah, and look, maybe that's why it was an up for me in the fact that it was mercilessly short. And to me, there's still a novelty because I haven't read these comics, right? I've seen the movies, that's it. So when I see a little superhero popping up that I've never seen before, I'm like, hey, it's that guy. The fact that it took only half a page, I could deal with it. But for you, I could see it being pretty insufferable.
Well, it's not insufferable. It's just I got big fish to fry right now.
Yeah.
There's broccoli people being exterminated, you know?
As soon as we went
off whatever Doctor Strange thinks.
Wait till my exes.
All right, Shawnee apparently likes comics now and has hardly any downs. So I'm going to do some downs because I've read this story I don't know how many times, so I have some. I don't see how the X-Men ever thought the mnemonic scrambler was ever going to do anything against Jean. I understand the logic. It seems to be doing something at the start, but she battles them without much difficulty even after it's slapped on her head. There's so much more to the Phoenix powers than telepathy, and I just think it's a goofy little comic book thing that they try to do that doesn't add anything, because the ambush on Jean was the scheme. That's the scheme. Snapping a little silly little crown on her head, that's not the scheme.
Do you think it's just here to give Beast something to do?
Well, funny you mention that. Because Beast is so annoying.
Oh, I liked Beast being here, being part of the team.
He keeps trying to quip, but he's not good at it. He's not good at it. When he attacks Jean, he says, temper, Carrot Top. What? When they arrive in space, he says, I don't think we're in canvas anymore. I know that's in the next issue. They're all at entirely the wrong time. They don't match the gravitas of the situation. None of them are clever. And I like to think that all the other X-Men are just as annoyed at him trying to be funny as I am. And this is why Warren is in the next issue. He is pissed at him for the Kansas thing. This is why he stops and it becomes so self-serious later on.
You know what? I think that's why I'm a little endeared to him. Because I think he's meant to be lame. I think he's meant to be striking out with these things. And to me, it is like a contrast to the fact that he's so smart and so dexterous that socially he's a bit of a dropkick. I don't know. It endears me to him a little bit.
Too much credit. Too much credit. You're giving them too much credit.
I am. Look, I'm giving a lot of credit to a lot of the things across these issues. So chuck it on the pile.
For the second week in a row, Shawnee, my chump of the week goes to Professor Charles Xavier. Who could ever have predicted it? So, would you like to tell me your grievances with Charles Xavier, and then I will speak to mine?
Perfect. Let me tell you what I think about our chump of the week. I am here for any time Charles Xavier wants to admit that he is wrong. But right before he manages to mentally bind Jean with psionic circuit breakers, I fear that when he says, I am in part responsible for what has happened here, he's referring to the fact that he encouraged her latent telepathic abilities, when he should instead be admitting responsibility for causing her so much repression and trauma that the Dark Phoenix manifested all of these feelings in the first place. The preceding scene of him mentally subduing the Phoenix Force is epic. But imagine how much more epic and poignant it would have been if during the fight he was admitting fault for all the emotional damage he's done to her over the years, and that is how he's able to eventually subdue her, because he was able to heal her instead of overpowering her. Chuck has given me no reason to expect this of him, but if there was ever any time to redeem himself, this was it, and he blew it.
I'm not touching any of that till later when I'm doing my big thing about the themes. But the thing that I think you're missing here is that the writers don't share our opinion about Charles.
I think so.
They don't believe that Charles Xavier has done anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
This is a modern reading, even though it shouldn't be, because he has done nothing correct in the entire time that we have known him.
Yeah.
Scott is starting to get through to Jean. Charles pops up behind from out of nowhere and hits her with the Mind Blast. It's worth noting here, the panel says phonics instead of phoenix, E missing. Spelling mistake in that panel, just FYI. This launches Jean straight back into Dark Phoenix mode and out for revenge. The psychic battle is beautifully illustrated, as you've discussed. Lots of black and shadow, and focus being just the pink of Jean. The pink is there!
It is pink! I didn't
It
mention it on
is
purpose, but it is. Glennis Ween, you rock at pink.
I wrote down that it was pink.
Yay!
I
Okay,
should
makes
know.
me happy.
Pink's my color.
Glennis Queen.
Bright yellow on Charles's face and tears appearing in his eyes. But the only reason he's able to imprison Phoenix within the psychic bonds is because Jean's subconscious is helping him.
Yeah.
You didn't do Chuck. And in the interest of not dwelling, let's get into the X's. Boom! What do you reckon happened to that solid gold tree? Just to stop Colossus hitting her with a tree, Jean turns the tree into solid gold, depowers Colossus, and it falls on him. Beast lifts it off him, and we never see it again. Do you think it was claimed by the city?
Well, that's what Kurt says, right? It would cure the fiscal debt of New York.
What happened, do you think?
I think the leprechauns took it.
Yes, because there's leprechauns in this comic.
Leprechauns are canon.
Only in the Cockrum issues. John Byrne wouldn't allow it. What's your first X?
Going back to that half page of the other Marvel heroes reacting to Phoenix, Doctor Strange says, to himself by the way, I sense images of great evil. But what meaning do they have for Doctor Strange? Is he phrasing it this way because readers might not know who Doctor Strange is, or does he just talk like this all the time?
I never read a Doctor Strange comic. I don't know. I've seen some freaky psychedelic panels from the 70s that look freaking dope.
Hell yeah, well I liked that Sam Raimi movie, what he did with that.
Yeah, I liked when he got real Raimi with it.
Yeah.
It's like, I like when there's candles and clocks and the camera's on a funny angle and then a dude is a stop motion skeleton and shit like that.
Yeah, I love that. I love when Doctor Strange is like a big like zombie skeleton with giant wings.
That's my favorite director. Why did Beast fly? Avengers Mansion is like next to Central Park. It's...
Is it?
The Hellfire Club is right there. Like, it says it's just up the road. There's like, why did he take the Quinjet? Bro, just nick out the door. Just
pop out the
tell the
door.
Avengers you're going out for milk or cigarettes.
He abandoned his post too. Jarvis says that like, oh, Beast was meant to be manning the post when the president called, embarrassing, took the whole jet with him.
And he didn't need to. It probably took longer to get down to the hangar than it would have to go out the door.
Could have just strolled on down. As Dark Phoenix is flying through space after creating a Stargate, she comments, transition took more out of me than I anticipated. Same girl.
I was about to say same girl, but I didn't want to cut you off.
Sorry, I just couldn't resist that one. That's all I have to say about that.
But it gave me more than I ever anticipated too. Have you seen
Right.
me?
I'm looking at it right now.
People in the audio version, I'm the most beautiful thing on God's green earth.
Anything you're imagining, times it by 100.
Boo-boo! Okay. Lilandra and everything she says about the Phoenix, and I'll talk about this more in the next issue, is like really silly because they're clearly retconning in that the Shi'arr know what the Phoenix is and have all along and were worried about it coming. So this issue in particular makes it seem like the Imperial culture has mythology around the Phoenix and they would fear it would come to pass. Also, she's been fully aware that Jean is Phoenix all along, but just never mentioned any of this, never said anything about it. It's like there's this question, because in the next story they talk about the Chaos Bringer, the destroyer of worlds. Lilandra says when she first met Jean as Phoenix, she was a beneficent entity, but now it seems that she's not anymore. So, did Lilandra know that Jean had the potential to end the universe? She was this horrible mythological creature, and she was just happy to let her cook. Sometimes retcons are silly.
Yeah, I'm glad that you bring up that it was a retcon because this whole thing made me think about that scene with the M Crown crystal. Because when Jean's doing all this stuff, Lilandra is there and she never once brings up, oh, that's the Phoenix. We better keep a bit of an eye on that.
Charles was off in space with her. He had to find out about what the Phoenix has been doing by himself.
I had to read about it in the
They shared a
library.
goddamn bed.
Yeah. Okay, perfect segue into my next X. We cut to Lilandra's bedchambers during Jean's attack on the Shi'arr vessel. And apart from some nice draped fabric above her bed, there's no real decor in the room except for what appears to be a huge orb placed on a stand with Charles Xavier's face on it.
I did not notice this.
Look, girl, I'll send you the panel because, sure, having a portrait of your spouse in your room is nice. But can you imagine getting a wink of sleep while the looming face of Charles Xavier is pointed directly at your bed at all times?
If I'm ever bad, that's how I want you to punish me. It's the only way I'll learn. And not in a saucy way. Like in a, this is a strictly punitive measure.
This is your sleep paralysis demon.
Oh, it's my waking nightmare. Do you think about how silly it is that Phoenix just comes straight back to Earth so soon after deciding that her destiny was in the stars?
Yeah.
She wants to devour all the power she can get out there in space. But nah, I'm coming back because I'm hungry. I ate a sun, but there's got to be something that's going to sate my hunger on Earth. This is a pretty significant plot hole, I think.
Well, like what we talked about before, like I know we're in the X's now, but like I think there was genuinely a part of Jean that like after committing such an atrocity, the humanity within her needed some kind of human reassurance that she was still a good person. I am fully aware. I'm giving the story like way too much credit. This is what I'm letting into it.
Credit. Too much credit.
That's the title of my whole opinion of this story. Like, I'm reading things in between lines that don't even exist.
Like, I'm all for reading a subtext, but I'm not going to plug a plot hole for them. I will not do it.
Oh, God. Do you think a sun would be really yummy if you were the Phoenix?
It's just like a great big super sour warhead.
Oh, I'm in. I would eat a sun. I wouldn't eat a sun that was nearby any inhabited planets. I'm not a monster.
I'd probably have some tendies. I've been thinking a lot about the Danger Room gadgets because there's a scene where Kurt, Peter, and Logan are tearing apart a giant propeller in the Danger Room, and Logan says, "Another big bad Danger Room contraption bites the dust." So are they just scrapping these contraptions every time? They're just destroying massive pieces of technology on the regular as training.
Yes.
As my neighbor, the hard rubbish guy, says, we live in a culture of waste.
They're constantly trashing these very expensive looking Danger Room gadgets that seemingly only have one use because their mission is always like break the thing. But then I remembered that it's all on Charles' bankroll. So all it's doing is burning through Charles Xavier's money. So I'm fine with that.
I'm giving it an up!
Our first X has transitioned.
This is the longest episode ever, but we have another issue to read, and I have a lot of things to say about it. So, everyone who said, make episodes as long as you want, your wish came sooner than we thought.
You're welcome.
Because we gotta get another issue read and cap off this Dark Phoenix saga. X-Men 137, let's go. We open on Uatu the Watcher, who only appears to supervise events of cosmic significance, who declares that this is the final act of this particular drama in our young mutants' lives. Thank goodness he told me it was important. I would not have known. I'm saving it. The X-Men materialize aboard a Shi'arr flagship, where the Empress Lilandra declares that the Phoenix must be destroyed. Gladiator, leader of the Shi'arr Imperial Guard, informs Jean's teammates of the atrocity she has committed. The X-Men are stunned to hear it, but internally grapple with the fact that she is one of their own and don't know how to feel. Before Jean can be sent to death without a trial, Charles calls in the ancient tradition of Arinhala, a duel of honor.
Flawless pronunciation.
There's always a fucking apostrophe.
Always.
You're going to be riding that bleep button so hard in this episode. The bets are off. Bet is off.
Bets are off.
The aliens must accept, and the battle will take place after a day's preparation. In their separate chambers, Jean and the other X-Men grapple with how they feel about her and whether it's right to save her despite what she's done. Jean has requested a new costume be made for her, and she finds Scott brooding alone to show him. He is shocked to find her in her old Marvel Girl costume. She started this as Marvel Girl, and that is how she will finish it. On the morning of the duel, the remaining X-Men tell Scott and Jean that they will back them up in battle no matter what. They are beamed down to the blue area of the moon, ancient ruins that reach beneath the lunar surface and possess an Earth-normal environment. The Imperial Guard appear, and despite the mutants' best efforts, they are overpowered by the Guard at every turn. The battle rages on until only Scott and Jean remain. As they launch into a final stand against their opponents, and as Scott is cut down, the psychic bonds that contain the Phoenix persona are broken, and she flares to life once more. Both the Imperials and the X-Men know that this means certain doom for the universe, and as the remaining X-Men awaken, they know they must once again try to cut down their own teammate. Wolverine launches Colossus at Jean in a reverse fastball special. Because Logan hesitated to deliver the killing blow last time, he hopes Peter won't miss this time. Peter pulls his punch, but the impact has allowed Jean to re-emerge, and she begs Colossus to kill her, but he can't, and she flees deep into the lunar ruins. Holding Scott back with her psychic powers, she finds an ancient weaponry that she located earlier with her telepathy. She says that she can't bear for even one more person to die at her hands, and telling him that she loves him, she fires the ancient weaponry on herself, and Jean Grey is dead, disintegrated with nothing remaining. As the story ends, the Watcher looks on and narrates that while Jean Grey could have lived to become a god, it was more important that she die a human. Shawnee, I fear that I am dead. And this story is my murderer. That's an old Shawnee joke. I'm throwing it straight back at her.
Oh, that's nice.
If you know what episode that was from, tell us in the comments, because I don't remember.
Thank you.
All right.
Wow.
There's going to be a lot to say. Let's get into the ups. The funny thing here is a lot of my big discussions of the themes are going to come after, because this is more of an action-packed issue than an emotional issue.
Mm-hmm.
So I think through these ups, I'll be talking about subtext a lot less, but I'll be talking about the big overall subtext afterwards. Trusts.
I can dig that. I trust.
I'm beginning with the absolute horror that the X-Men display in their thought balloons when it's revealed that Jean has committed genocide of an entire planet. It's great writing because they want to support Jean and accept her as part of their family no matter what, but obviously they have to grapple with the fact that she's committed this atrocity, and so the use of thought bubbles is once again very effective here.
Agreed. I know we're not doing best and worst dress tonight, but that full silver armor getup with that one-shouldered blue cape that Lilandra is wearing in the last issue is sick as hell. She's getting my honorary best dressed for the episode.
Nah, she's a cop. F her. I've decided Lilandra's a cop.
She's got to save the universe.
She's a cop.
I mean, she's doing it in a cop way. It's a cop out, but she looks so good.
Wait, I've decided she's thoroughly unlikable and she stinks and I don't like her.
Yeah, she's disappointed me a lot. This was like my last little flickering flame of like, girl still got drip.
I don't even remember the outfit because it's a police uniform for Empress Lilandra the cop.
There is a lot of dark blue on it actually, so...
Charles Xavier proves himself useful for once because even though he hasn't put any effort into finding out what was going on with his own team, he's apparently taken some time to learn Imperial customs, such as the Duel of Honor. This sets up the entire story of this issue, and thank you for that, Chuck.
Thank you, Chump of the Week. This story takes a pretty sudden turn during the third issue when we get teleported into space. But I gotta say, I am so here for the intergalactic politics of it all. The fact that there are alien races of the Skrulls and the Kree within the Empire who hate each other but have to be unified for this one specific situation. This kind of silly sci-fi shtick with a bunch of freaks on TV monitors just makes me so happy. I like being here.
I want to talk about the Kree and the Skrulls later.
Cool.
The time we spend with the X-Men while they're all in their separate chambers waiting for the battle to happen is some of the best writing in this issue. In the original draft of this issue, we can read as Phoenix the Untold Story, which I'm going to speak about that at length later.
Same.
The X-Men's internal monologue is each of them thinking about how they will potentially feel about themselves dying tomorrow. But this has been replaced in the final version of the issue with each X-Man grappling with how they feel about Jean after knowing that she has committed genocide and wondering if they can morally support her. As a German, Nightcrawler grapples with memories of Holocaust survivors. Logan thinks about Jean and the Phoenix as separate entities and believes you can't hold one responsible for the actions of the other. Beast believes that the right way to handle this would be with a trial. Peter's love for his family stands above all else, and he'll always stand beside Jean. And Aurora sees Jean as her sister. And then we're left with Scott, who thinks about it from the leader's perspective and wonders what might happen if the psychic bonds placed on the Phoenix break. But he decides he would always land on the side of mercy rather than vengeance, because he's a hero and he's not a cop, Lalandra.
That's it.
This is when Jean enters the room and confesses to Scott that devouring the sun felt good and that she doesn't want to feel that way ever again, but also part of her does. So he tells her he knows that she's not evil and he'll always love her and stand by her. This is the relationship between Scott and Jean that gets neglected so often in these issues, and I'm going to get into why that is a bit later on, but I love seeing it when I do see it, and I love seeing everything we know about each individual X-Man's personality in relation to Jean based on all the time we've spent with them. They are all those internal monologues are 100% in character.
Yes, this is exactly what I had for my next up. I don't know why this would be your first issue of X-Men that you ever picked up, but it probably was for some people. And if it was, you would have such an insight into all of these characters in the setup before the battle. To me, it makes sense that they would all be navigating their thoughts at this time. They feel very well represented.
Every issue is somebody's first issue, and it's always good to write as if it is. Because comics are a serialized art form. You kind of need to make them new reader friendly. And older comics do a better job of that because they're wordier, the panels are smaller, they can do more of that stuff. What's your next up?
Even though they're here to take down the X-Men again, and they are a bunch of cops.
Cops.
I like seeing the Imperial Guard again. I like seeing a bunch of silly aliens flinging around their powers, even if the most important one is absent. It's always a treat to see the Beth Guard, Oracle. I do like some of the new members we get. Warstar being a giant robot with a tiny little robot that jumps out of his head is very fun. Hussar, I think that's her name, is a whip-wielding red devil-looking lady. And I love Manta's big, constantly flowing capes that she can blast light out of.
Who's the most important one that's missing? Fang?
Girl, Nightside, my Imperial Guard.
Oh.
Remember at the start where I was like, these two guards, these represent our Beth and Shawnee. She was like the ghost-looking demon bat lady one.
Yeah.
Too subtle.
I don't know. You could have explained it a little bit. How was anyone going to know what you were talking about?
Here's me editing in my brain while I'm talking about it. A picture of her was up while I said that line, but Beth doesn't get to see the picture in real time.
And our audience who may not have watched all those episodes.
Not to mention the audio listeners that I didn't even consider. It's Nightside! Everybody, yay, Nightside exists, but she's not here, boo.
Fang's also not here because Wolverine killed him.
He's dead. The first casualty.
I think canonically he's not dead and we are going to see him again. But he's heavily implied to be dead right now.
He's mutilated.
Dead until proven otherwise. I like the Guard, I do, but they're just perpetually underdeveloped, aren't they?
Oh yeah, they're not here to be actual characters.
I described this to Shorty before as like, the Guard shows up, it's a Pokemon battle.
Yeah!
It's like, Gladiator, I choose you. They just do their move and say the name of their power.
Yeah.
And then they exist just to overpower the X-Men.
Yeah.
But they are fun. The blue area of the moon is an established feature of the Marvel Universe already, and it's an inspired choice for this battle. There's a historical and cosmic significance to this story, so having the final battle in a place that feels ancient contributes to the story in a big way, and it makes the setting feel like a character in the battle, but it feels ancient, but also cosmic and futuristic at the same time. like the Jedi Temple on Yavin 4. I'm just throwing Star Wars references in everywhere. This is my favorite Star Wars movie, The Dark Phoenix Saga. And I love that we see the blue area when the X-Men first arrive in this gorgeous panel by Byrne that takes up half a page. And we see all the ancient technology and architecture beneath the moon's surface. And behind the mountains, we see Earth off in the distance. There's even like a face carved into the rock.
Yeah, I like that.
And I love it so much. And it makes a battle for the fate of the Phoenix feel historically significant in a cosmic sense.
Yeah, I love that. I love that too, because I want to stack on. It feels like this ancient abandoned place. And at the same time, it feels closer to us as readers because I'm looking at it being like, the moon? I know that guy. This stuff was hanging out on the moon the whole time.
Spent a lot of time looking at that boy.
Yeah, right?
Staring up at him.
Contemplating.
Thinking about all my mistakes, just like Jean Grey.
Imagine if you could have just gone and lived on the moon.
Do they have Dottie on the moon?
They've got to. They've got a Dottie everywhere. But it's ancient Dottie. That stuff is out of date.
When Peter ultimately loses his fight against Gladiator, we've seen so many battles where he's just made to look like a chump. So this fight, where he is the irresistible force fighting the immovable object until the building falls on them both, feels like a great moment for him.
Yeah.
Even though he ultimately loses, he goes down fighting. He's not just got sparks sprayed in his eyes or yeeted out of the building like he often is. So I like Peter getting a moment. Also, the panel of Gladiator emerging from the rubble in his torn clothes is dope.
Very cool. Gladiator, he's doing the old school punk thing and putting some thick egg whites in that mohawk because when Peter drops that pillar on him, that thing is untouched when he emerges.
I reckon that's just like genetic. Like a Parasaurolophus crest, but it's got hair growing over it. That's just the shape of his skull. All right, let's carry on.
Gross.
We got to get to the intense bit. And I've got a few thought points on this. I bet you do too.
Oh, yeah.
So let's just go one for one.
Okay. Scott and Jean making their final stand against the Imperial Guard after every other X-Men has been cut down. There are a lot of pages in this comic that are seared into my memory because of how they made me feel, and this is one of them. They've said their last words to each other. They're running into battle holding hands. They're hopelessly outnumbered. As they're battling to the death, they know they're probably not going to survive this. And the panels just pull out and out and out. My favorite thing about this is the prose matching the visuals. So, Beth, would you do us the honors?
Once upon a time, there was a woman named Jean Grey, a man named Scott Summers. They were young. They were in love. They were heroes. Today, they will prove it beyond all shadow of a doubt. It's the tragic end of a Shakespearean love story. That's what it is.
I sent Beth a photo of myself at 1 a.m. with tears streaming down my face as I was rereading this scene and analyzing it for my notes. If it isn't one of the most powerful moments of romance that I have read in the history of having eyeballs.
Their love is everything. And that's what this is. It's a love story. And I am a romantic. When Phoenix unlocks from Jean's mind, the X-Men know they must cut her down immediately. But what's worth noting is that she has changed back to the green costume.
Yes.
Not the red costume. So we know this is Jean's Phoenix and not Dark Phoenix. But the X-Men all know they have to cut her down anyway, and Jean knows that she has to let them. Ultimately, this proves fruitless because Jean genuinely isn't fighting back through this battle at all. It's that the X-Men can't bring themselves to actually do it. Peter can't land the killing blow. Cyclops I-beams aren't going anywhere near Jean. As Jean flees, the costume is already transforming back into the red costume, and she knows she's losing control. This is when she seeks out the alien weaponry and disintegrates herself. I think the use of the costume is so evocative, and it goes a long way into clarifying which Jean we're dealing with at what time and where
Yes.
she's slipping and how.
Yes, and so important at this moment when Jean does have control. It's when she chooses to goad her team. Jean wants them to kill her and they don't want to kill her, and that's the only reason this battle is going on for as long as it is. Beth already touched on this in her synopsis, but at the height of an already cool moment where Charles has revived the X-Men, I'll give it to you, Charles. That was cool that you did that. Wolverine knows that because of his love for Jean, he'll hesitate when it comes to taking her down. And so thanks to the low gravity of the moon, we are treated to the reverse fastball special. Tiny little Logan throwing big boy Peter Rasputin. Oh, this moment brought me so much joy in the midst of tears streaming down my face from the previous scene. Emotional whiplash doesn't even cut it.
I love that we're already subverting the trope too.
Yeah.
It's so good. We're going to read X-Men Forever. You're going to see every variation of the fastball special you can imagine.
Oh, I love it.
Jean's death is one of the most important events in comics ever. And ultimately, while Claremont thinks there's capacity for evil in all of us, the final act of heroism is not allowing that evil to take control. So destroying herself is the only way that Jean can be sure she'll never kill another person. Scott wants her to fight against the Phoenix, but she says she would have to stay in control of herself every second of every day for the rest of her immortal life, and so she kills herself, even though it destroys both of them to do it. She planned it secretly from the second they arrived on the moon and shielded the thoughts from Scott. This is absolutely devastating.
I have a lot of things to say later about the final page where the Watcher summarizes the story, but I was very emotionally satisfied with the final line. Jean Grey could have lived to become a god, but it was more important to her that she die a human. To me, this is the perfect, succinct summary of this story, and I think it's a beautiful sentence to go out on.
Broken clock is right twice a day. Uadu the Watcher gets to spit one bar.
Yeah. He's like, he had an album that was miss after miss after miss, but that last track, ooh, that's what you buy it for.
I had that 30 Seconds to Mars album. The Kill is the only good song on it.
Amen. I didn't even know they had an album's worth of other songs.
I don't want to talk about Jared Leto.
Bury him, right?
Are you calling for the murder of Jared Leto on the pod?
That's what he sings in the song, right? Bury me, bury me.
I'm so tired. I didn't even think of that. We're not calling for his murder, but Jared Leto, certified enemy of the pod.
Yeah, sorry.
We've said it before.
Sorry, JL. Hate that you're playing Skeletor right now.
And speaking of downs, the way Jared Leto is a down, let's get into the downs.
Jared let down.
I understand the significance of the Watcher to major events in the Marvel Universe. Because it's a trope of Marvel Comics. And when you're coming in as an outsider, as I'm sure you are, Shawnee, this is probably your first encounter with Uatu in a comic book. I think he's probably in one of those MCU movies that I didn't watch. But it feels so tacked on and it takes me out of the storyline. Because it's just one of those things that exists in Marvel Comics because it's been around for a long time and it's accepted. But it doesn't actually add any gravitas or make the story better. I don't need to be told a story is of great significance. I can work that out for myself. And I think the 8-year-olds reading this in the 70s and 80s can work that out too.
Yeah, hard agree. When the issue opened and I saw this guy, I'm like, yeah, I know vaguely about this guy from my like Wikipedia binges back in the day where I did that instead of reading comics for some reason. But I don't need to be told the importance and I don't need to be told what the themes of the story are. I'm reading the story.
But everything's better if you explain it. That's why we have a podcast.
I forgot all about that.
Yeah.
I take it all back. We're the Watchers of this universe.
Joke. That was me saying I should have made a joke, but I had nothing.
That's where the joke was inserted, I see, yes. I keep going back and forth on whether this is worthy of a down because from a story perspective, I think the last issue feels very bloated for the fact that it's double length. I really do think they could have hit all the same beats and had the same emotional impact in the space of a normal issue and it would have been a lot tighter. That said, I really enjoyed my time with this issue and there are so many great moments in it. The inner critic within me respects pacing and wishes that it was shorter, but the inner sci-fi nerd within me who loves all this schlocky space adventure action is glad that it's not at the same time. It's like when you order nachos at a restaurant and it arrives at the table and it's this huge pile of beans and cheese with all the trimmings on top. And of course, I'm going to eat the entire thing by myself. And I'm going to have the best night of my life doing it. But if it was even 20% smaller, my bowels would thank me the next day.
That's the analogy?
I'm very proud of that analogy.
Can you tell we've been recording for 3 hours? We're now talking about Shawnee's digestive tract. We got to talk about like the fact that this as a double issue is significant. Because Marvel didn't just do double issues. Not till here. They were for anniversaries. Annuals were always a double issue. But they were for 100th issues, 200th issues. This is issue 137.
Yeah.
And it's a double-sized issue because this was Marvel's highest-selling comic, and it was the culmination of this storyline. So it served the story to make this a double-sized issue. I think a lot of this story doesn't need to be here, but the real-life universe significance of it being a double issue is pretty cool. So I'm giving it a pass.
Yeah, I agree with that completely as well. Like, it felt like a special occasion, and it was special that they gave all this extra time to such a special storyline. And that's also why it's my most conflicted down of all time.
The writers seem happy to play in the sandbox of Cosmic Marvel, but it also sort of assumes that everyone is familiar with what's going on in all the other Marvel comics. The ongoing war between the Kree and the Skrulls has never been a feature of X-Men comics. So featuring the parts where their representatives who are supervising the battle fight each other, main action, and actually doesn't do anything to further the story. There's a lot of stuff like that in a double issue that we just need to make the page count.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean anything to a longtime reader or X-Men fans. If you're into those stories, you know, through Avengers, Fantastic Four, whatever other comics it's in, cool, I hope you're having fun. But, like, it's 1980, you only got money for the X-Men. What do I care about the Kree and the Skrull? I was -10.
You cared -10 about them.
Yeah, these are petty downs, but I'm just... Gang, we've been recording for nearly 3.5 hours.
That's it. We're at a very special place in time right now. And I hope you all enjoy me in this state attempting to pronounce this word, because why isn't Chuck participating in the Harren and Hyla? Why is he just watching and feeling guilty when they're losing? Dude, you are the one who suggested this whole thing, and you're not even gonna glove up? Like, this whole thing would be a cakewalk with his powers on their side. Why is he hanging out?
These are my children who I send to a fight to the death.
He didn't even ask them. Like, Warren says at the point as well, I think, why did Xavier just volunteer us for this? That was rude.
Speaking of Warren, he's an idiot, isn't he?
Oh my God.
Stupid himbo flies immediately up into the vacuum of space.
Oh.
Seconds after Beast says there's an open vacuum directly above them. He calls himself out on it, but I'm still gonna roast him.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh, and he's all embarrassed and says, I've pulled some dodo stunts in my day. This one's right in character.
Oh, shucks. I don't know how to control my big old wings.
Oh, what a sexy, stupid dummy.
Oh, shucks. I live in Arizona or New Mexico. No one can make their mind up.
You know he's got holiday houses in both.
Oh, Colorado.
Colorado.
Maybe it was never in Arizona.
What's your next down?
There's this scene where Wolverine falls into Uatu the Watcher's house in the middle of the battle. Dumb as hell. The Watcher says to Logan, "How dare you trespass in my home?" Bro, you built a home that you can just fall through the wall of in the middle of a battle arena. Somebody was gonna fall into it.
He's been watching them. He knows they're there.
You got big screens where you can watch everything that's going on. We know that because we seen it, brother. This one's on you. It didn't need to be in the arena.
Oh, God. I am cannibalizing my X's with your downs here because this was an X for me. Him falling into the Watcher's house, again, I assume to pad out the page count because it takes up a whole page, gives us no more information on the Watcher than we already learned in his intro page. But do I also like seeing Wolverine hopping through prehistoric Earth for its silliness sake? Yeah.
Now, Scott, in battle, gets cut down, and that's what unleashes the Phoenix. We don't see it, even though it's what makes the Phoenix unlock from the bonds in Jean's mind. It all happens off panel. And there's a reason for this, that this is where the original version of the story in Phoenix the Untold Story diverges into the different ending, which we will talk about at length. The original version of the story, this is where they're just defeated. So that epic zoom out that you're talking about, that narration, that's their loss. Like, that's them losing. This page, I think, works even better in that version of the story because we don't have the room to add more pages and show Scott getting cut down. So I just feel like that's a real big, important, missing ingredient. The fact that it says witnessing Scott get cut down is what unlocked it, even though we don't see it.
Absolutely agreed. As we've talked about, there is many moments in this issue that could have been cut to add emotional stakes and more foreshadowing or planting seeds about these kind of things that would have made the emotional hits hit that much harder. But we do know that this is a result of a rewritten ending. And my down for this one is conflicted because I am so here for Jean having to take herself out using the ancient weaponry to do it. But I will be honest, I had a lot of trouble when I was first reading this page understanding exactly what was happening as the page unfolded. And to be fair, we get as much foreshadowing as we could have allowed because on the top panel of the page, there is a big view of the gun in the foreground as Scott and Jean have entered the chamber. But it looks just as abstract and techie as any other bit of scenery that we've seen in the location. So my mind didn't read that it was a big gun. I was just like, oh, a room with some stuff in it. So as the scene progresses and Jean says goodbye to Scott, she's suddenly zapped out of nowhere and disintegrated. And I thought she had imploded herself, I guess. But then I did notice there was a tiny, tiny little drawing of a gun in the background shooting her. And so then my flow immediately stopped and I had to scan back through the pages to be like, what's happening here? Before I realized what it was and was able to read on. At which point, Cyclops has to spend his first moments grieving Jean's death by explaining what happened. That it was her plan all along to weaken herself in battle and to use the ancient weaponry to finally take herself out. The fact that what should be Scott's most emotional moment of the whole saga, his moment where he finally unleashes his emotions, has to be spent exposition dumping, it left me a bit wanting for a different way of ending it. And so that's why, I have to acknowledge that they did the best they could with a rewritten ending. I wanted more emotional release, and Scott just didn't get it. Even to have no dialogue at all during those last 3 panels of Scott on his knees in front of Jean's remains would have been so powerful.
He's punching the floor, though.
He loves punching
the
that
floor. He's on his hands and knees. He's screaming. He's punching the floor. If that's not feelings, I don't know what is. Nah, we got to concede that this is a classic issue. This is a classic.
Yeah.
But it's a mess.
Yes.
I don't, blasphemy. But you read this story in isolation through modern eyes. The story, incredible. The significance, incredible. The moments, the art, incredible. But it's a beautiful thing made, held together with sticky tape.
Yes. It's a testament to how powerful they made that ending, considering the last minute rewrite they had to do. And we'll get into it later, but spoilers, this ending rips so much more.
Oh, yeah, I got so much to say about that. You know what? They could have spent more time on it if we didn't have to spend an entire page with Uatu the Watcher again explaining what's going on. Feels like it completely takes the wind out of the sails of this epic moment. I texted this to Shawnee earlier. It's like at the end of Psycho, they have to get the psychiatrist in to explain what's going on. So instead of leaving me on the emotional impact of Scott devastated next to Jean's smoking remains, I get a page of exposition explaining what Jean was and why she did that. Doesn't land for me. It's a little robot going, I'm confused. Tell me what's happening.
Same. This is exactly my same. Last down. I thought maybe it was a hot take. I'm so glad it's a cold take. The ending summary with the Watcher explaining things to his little robot husband feels unnecessary and also oversimplifies the entire situation. It takes all the fun of me reading through the lines and advanced plot points that don't exist. Like, to be fair, as Beth said before, like Claremont loves this theme that it's all about good and evil inside us. And this story at its core is about Jean wrestling with the good and evil inside her. I guess at a surface level, that's what it's about. So for the Watcher to spend the whole last page explaining that to us, it's kind of like, yeah, man, we just read that. That wasn't the subtext, that was the text.
Yeah.
So when he says the final line, which I mentioned I really like, Jean Grey could have lived to become a god, but it was more important to her that she die human. To me, that says everything in a much less bloated way. Have him say just that. Better yet, ditch the Watcher completely. Imagine Storm saying that line to Peter as the final moment of the comic.
This is what I'm saying. Don't show me how Doctor Strange feels or what Uatu the Watcher thinks. Show me what Kurt and Peter and Roro think.
Yep.
Let's do some X's. I only have 2, and then I'm going to talk about Phoenix the Untold Story so much.
Great. Yeah, me too. I've got a whole section that's all about that, and I have 1 X in the meantime.
Let's get Xy! The confusion of how much the Shi'arr know about the Phoenix continues, because Lilandra once again says that she had no quarrel with Phoenix before because she thought she was a beneficent entity, and while they suspected the full extent of her power and feared it, they did nothing. They believed that Jean could cope with her near-infinite abilities. They refer to Phoenix as the Black Angel of Legend. Dope song title. Stealing it.
Hell yeah.
The Chaos Bringer, the Ravager of Worlds. They can be for your metal project.
Thank you.
But it's unclear how much connection they actually made between this Chaos Bringer and the Phoenix. Did they think the Phoenix was just immensely powerful? Or did they always know that this was what Phoenix might become? Still seems to me like she was just willing to let it cook until something came to pass. Doing the Charles Xavier method of not telling nobody nothing. They shouldn't have let her cook.
They shouldn't have.
What's your first X?
My first and only X, now that I've cannibalized them, is that when the X-Men get dropped off on the moon, Claremont's prose tells us, many believe a man will not walk on the moon again before the turn of the century. That would be a shame and a terrible waste. Nah, man. The Apollo mission took $25 billion and all they did was go up there and walk around for a bit and come back home. I think it would be more of a waste not to spend that cash somewhere important. Like funding the X-Men podcast.
Oh, subscribe to the Patreon.
Thank you.
$25 billion into the X-Men podcast.
Only $25 billion a month.
Oh, I could finally afford that pink super strat with the tremolo.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you could afford at least 1 million of them.
Fans of the pod, pool your resources. I need a pink Charvel with a humbucker in the bridge and a single coil in the neck and some kind of tremolo system. And it's got to be bright pink.
That's it. She's not asking for much.
Hook your girl up. Interesting to know that when the Watcher is speaking, this is the first time that we see Jean and the Phoenix referred to as separate entities. A primal force second only to the Creator, merged with Jean Grey, as opposed to the Phoenix powers being something that has come out from within her as a result of surviving the solar flare back in X-Men 100. They discuss this in the big roundtable interview at the back of Phoenix the Untold Story, which I'll get to.
Oh, okay.
Phoenix and Jean were never a separate entity until this arc.
This is why I keep dropping all these things about how, I like the theme that they're not completely separate. They still are, but you can be something and something else at the same time. And that's what I find interesting about it.
Well, it's kind of like trying to absolve Jean of some of the guilt by saying, no, it's like more of an exorcist kind of thing. You know, she's possessed by the Phoenix.
I have to acknowledge, like, creators, you're doing it. You're telling me what it is. That's fine. I admit I'm reading a lot more into this with the themes that I like to get out of it than what is actually on the paper. So that's my cross to bear.
That's why I like you to experience these issues without the context of everything else.
That's what I do like, learning the context in the moment as well.
Little bonus issue. We read the 1980s one-shot Phoenix the Untold Story, which is basically this same issue, but it's the first draft. Some of the dialogue has changed, and the ending is different. And we need to talk about the original ending. This issue was already penciled, but once Jim Shooter, editor-in-chief at Marvel, saw that Jean had eaten an entire planet and killed 5 billion people when the previous issue was already going into publication, he decided that he needed to know where this story was going, and that the punishment for Jean's crime would be suitable. The original ending was that the Shi'arr would fully depower Jean and cut her off from her powers entirely, making her live the rest of her life as a human. And to Claremont and Burns' credit, the scene is written really, really well. But with the Shakespearean tragedy that we've had, to me, it feels that this issue had to end in a death. Using technology to remove her powers undermine it by just overall being too comic booky. There's some great character moments in it, though, because we get Logan begging Scott not to let them go through with this and saying, Scott, please, because of what it would be like to depower a mutant and to strip them of their mutant powers. And that's a horrific prospect, as if you saw any of my TikToks about mutant cure storylines way back, there's some very uncomfortable parallels with, you know, queer conversion.
Yeah.
It's a huge thing for Logan to beg. It's beautifully illustrated as Jean enters the contraption and lights flare around her. Her hand extends from the light so Scott can hold it, and then she collapses in his arms. It's fine, but as slapped together as the ending we got is, it's way better.
Way better. The original ending, I've got to say it too. I feel like it flies against everything interesting that the story has stood for. And I'm a little confused as well, because imagine going through this whole ordeal with going through this battle with the Imperial Guard to save Jean's life, putting all their lives on the line, only for Lilandra to clarify that they're not going to kill her. They're just going to give her a fancy lobotomy. And I want to be sensitive about like the mutant cure thing, because like obviously it's still a really horrific thing to have to go through. But surely if she had mentioned that beforehand, it would have negated the whole need for a fight, because obviously it's the reasonable solution when the alternative is that she has to remain a murderous, omnipotent psychopath. The scene itself, as you say, like emotionally, I do like the beats that it hits with Jean holding out her hand and Scott taking it. It does emphasize those points of Scott saying that he loves her no matter what. Her becoming something new, he's going to love her just the same. But the thing I dislike about how this scene is depicted is that it's Scott who gives Lilandra the final go-ahead to perform the operation. And it's Scott's feelings and thoughts that we hear in these final moments. Jean has no agency in this scenario. And for a story that revolves around Jean's agency, it's a betrayal of the themes that we've been exploring up until this point.
Jean making the choice to kill herself is her winning over the Phoenix.
Literally, yes.
The real treasure of Phoenix the Untold Story is this epic round table of all the creators at the end of it, which contextualizes all the behind-the-scenes stuff from this story, which I have read and Shawnee hasn't, because I want to hear what she has to say to react to the different things I've got out of this. If you're interested in this sort of thing, it's well worth reading. It's on Marvel Unlimited. Check it out. Here are some highlights for me. Apparently, Jim Shooter, who was editor-in-chief, was informed already that Phoenix would be turning evil, and it felt like an epic and powerful moment in Marvel Comics that made it felt like actions had real-world consequences. Somebody who's a career hero becoming a major villain. But he didn't know the extent of what she was going to do, and so he took his hands off a little bit too much, and that's why this issue had to get changed quite late in the process. So it was him that felt the consequence of Jean losing her powers just wasn't enough and that she had to die as a result.
I'm with you, Jim. This is giving me when they were filming The Mandalorian for the first time and they were tossing up whether the Grogu was going to be CG or a puppet. And Werner Herzog was on set and he said, "Use the puppet, you cowards." It's like Jim Shooter is just like, "Center the third act around the woman's agency, you cowards."
I don't think that's what he was saying.
It sounds like maybe.
He was more like, that
like, we can't
she
backpedal
deserves
this.
it. When Jean initially became Phoenix, Claremont and Cockrum wanted her to become like Thor for the X-Men.
Cool.
Having somebody on the team who had that level of power. Byrne, however, didn't like the concept of the Phoenix from the time he came on because he said it made the rest of the team look like fifth wheels. So this is why she was split from the team and backbenched as much as possible until she re-enters the team in Proteus. So this leads to the loss of the relationship between Scott and Jean, which we saw in the early run with Claremont and Cockrum. This could also be why we consistently saw Jean losing access to certain parts of the Phoenix powers throughout their stories, and also why Storm was nerfed so much.
Yeah.
The funny thing about Claremont and Cockrum being like, we need our own version of Thor. You have your own version.
He's there, right?
Storm is Thor.
Right?
She's a weather goddess.
Yeah. You know what? I didn't comment enough. I have been feeling that lack of Storm. She has been benched through a lot of this story. The moments that she does chime in when it is like related to her friendship with Jean, I think is great. But compared to like what we were getting of Storm from the first run of issues, I felt her absence massively.
Artists have different favorite characters. Cockrum loved Nightcrawler and didn't care for Logan.
Yeah.
Byrne loved Logan.
Yeah.
You know, Wolverine gets ramped up. Byrne doesn't like Storm as much. He reduces her input in the battles. Now she's just chilling the room. Whereas during the Cockrum issues, she was doing godlike feats.
Yeah.
Wasn't she? So it makes sense because to Byrne, he has a different view of how powerful superhero should be versus Claremont or Cockrum.
I get it, but don't nerf my girl.
Nerf both our girls. Some people at Marvel saw Phoenix and Jean as separate entities, and some didn't. And it was never depicted this way on panel. So the X-Men editor, Jim Salicrup, saw it as being sort of like, I said this Exorcist thing earlier, where you could blame the entity within her for the heinous acts she committed. Byrne also thought of the Phoenix as a tenant within Jean, and they could just suck it out of Jean and have her go on her merry way. But because it was never represented that way in the comics, it would seem like justifying the genocide to play it like that.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. I'm beating a dead horse here, but I think the input of Jean's emotions and having it contribute some factor to the Phoenix's emotions is important.
As for where the story might have gone if Jean hadn't died at the end, her main thing would have been grappling with the guilt of what she had done. But there were some plans for Magneto to kidnap her and offer her a way to regain her powers in X-Men 150. So until then, she would just be Scott's human wife.
Right.
Grappling with the guilt of what she did, but living as a human.
Okay.
That's Claremont's idea, by the way. Claremont's plan for this.
All right,
Byrne
that
has a different one.
that makes sense. See, I get around that idea. My problems come from the fact that this story felt so special that wrapping it up in that way felt like it betrayed the storyline that we got across these ones. I sort of didn't think about the fact that like the story is always going to be progressing. So how they explore that can still be interesting.
Byrne's pitch is worse.
Lay it on me.
His idea is after losing her powers, her brain would regress to being 9 years old, which is when her powers first manifested.
Why does this keep coming up?
So she would be like a child in an adult body, but the Phoenix form would eventually manifest again when she was attacked in an alley and would end up with a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde sort of thing between Jean and Phoenix.
So the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is that when she's Dr. Jekyll, she's a childlike, fully grown woman. And when she's Mr. Hyde, she's a lust-driven cosmic being.
Yeah.
One of my most hated tropes is when there is a female character who is represented with a childlike mind or brain, whether it's an experience that happened to them or they're just like that, because it is always an infantilization fetish disguised by whoever the male writer is. Yeah, I'm really glad that didn't happen.
Byrne has some weird and creepy obsessions with adolescents, and I'm going to leave it at that. Want to talk about your boy, Terry Austin?
Always.
Terry Austin in particular thought the Dark Phoenix was built up for so long, and to have it dealt with in basically 5 pages didn't feel satisfying when he was reading the issues himself.
Amen, Tezza.
Imagine if Dark Phoenix, like this storyline played out across a year after she turned dark, and instead of having 3 issues of her going into space, eating a sun, coming back to Earth, stopping being Phoenix, having a space battle, and then blowing herself up. Imagine if that played out across another year of stories.
Yeah.
It would be the best year of X-Men comics ever.
That would be the best. That's what I'm talking about. That's when we get all those Shawnee hypothetical themes explored properly.
I wonder why, like, after building up Phoenix for so long, they didn't have any plans for when she actually did turn evil. And, like,
This is,
none of this discussion ever seems like there was a plan for her to be evil long term, which would have been very interesting.
It would have been so interesting. Imagine if that was it, and then she's just a villain now. Like, that in itself would have been really interesting, because it's so rich to explore those kind of themes. We haven't even touched on the Jason Wingard of it, manipulating her, and how that potentially plays into the Dark Phoenix side of things.
Speaking of the themes, welcome to Beth's book club.
Oh my gosh, I am ready for you to cook, girl.
Shawnee, I've read this story in a lot of different eras of my life. When I was a literal snot-dribbling teenager, when I was a repressed man in my 20s, and now that I am an angel without wings. And this is the most I've ever dug into and thought about the theme in a way that I can articulate in words. I've always known what it meant to me, but I've grappled with this across several episodes because I'm trying to reconcile how I feel about the story with what Claremont is verbalizing about the story and wants me to feel. And I think I've settled on a thesis that I'm excited to sink our teeth into.
I'm really excited to hear it.
What does this story represent? I think ultimately I've settled on it being a story about the impact of trauma and repression, which is pretty obvious. We know that the X-Men are freaky. And I think back to Scott and Jean walking through that disco and her being attracted to the most repulsive thoughts within the people she passed. But what were those thoughts? She's been raised in a very conservative family and then effectively groomed to be a superhero by Charles Xavier for years and groomed in other ways. So she's never experienced the real world. She's a woman in her early 20s who has been forced to be a certain thing and act a certain way for her entire adolescence. And now that she's a woman, she doesn't know how to process those feelings. Things that she was sensing, just these disgusting ideas, probably normal sexual urges from people who are in a disco.
Yeah.
But not to her.
Yeah.
Because she's so repressed, you know? Whether this is sexual desires she's repressing or queer feelings, because we know there's an inherent queerness to all the X-Men, she's had to bottle those feelings down until she attained this power that can finally set it free. It's that feeling of like being trans and in the closet, and you have this fantasy that somebody will just say, hey, could I just put a little dress on you? And it takes the ownership of it out of your hands.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have to make that jump.
Permission.
So Jean, a repressed individual, has also been objectified by every male in her life, including her teacher and mentor, from the time she was a teenager. She's been treated like a prize by villains and mentally manipulated over the last couple of years of issues by both Mesmero and Mastermind into being their lovers.
True.
So how much opportunity has she had across the years to be allowed to feel her emotions of this trauma and process it. She's had trauma after trauma after trauma and never really had the time or the capacity to be able to find who she is as a person. I know personally, a lot of my own traumas, I didn't understand the impact of until I went onto HRT and I had access to emotions I hadn't felt in years.
Yes. Yeah.
Because the brain sets up barriers to protect you from those feelings.
Yeah.
When Jean unlocked the Phoenix powers, she unlocked her own emotions. And she felt them in a way she never had before and was ultimately disgusted by them and snapped. Normal human urges that she's bottled up because of the grooming, because of the trauma, because of the manipulation, because of being treated as a prize. This could be a story about BPD, about CPTSD, and I think it's the wrong lens entirely to focus on the atrocities she's committed here, because I don't think it is really a secret desire to do evil. I think unlocking those emotions was too much for her, and her impulses have completely taken over, leading to a lot of regret.
Those in the audio medium, I'm wearing gloves, but I'm applauding Beth right now because what a essay. I could not agree with you more, girl. I loved every moment of that.
Any thoughts about it?
Yeah.
I know I said a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and I was hanging off your every word because this is what I'm talking about, right? Jean's experiences and her lack of agency in the past are, I think, what fuels a lot of the desire for her to have power when she gets that Phoenix power. Like, while she's still green version, while she's still in control, she finds that joy in that power. To her, the power is described as a symphony. You know, it's like you said, when you transition and you unlock all these new emotions, so many positive ones, you feel like you're living life again for the first time. You've got all this energy. At the same time, because you've unlocked emotions, you're also having to grapple with how those emotions were impacted by past traumas, and things you didn't even consider would be traumas suddenly make so much sense because your brain is working again.
The last 3 years of my life.
Literally, girl. I resonate with that a lot. See, this is one of those interesting things too, because we're also not saying that, like, when you transition, you become a perfect angel who understands everything, right? Like, when you realize traumas that have affected you is a very messy, complicated feeling when you're still dealing with being emotionally compromised. And I feel like this is a lot of what we're seeing about how Jean's negative powers manifest themselves.
It was only after coming out as trans that I could allow myself to be messy.
Yes.
Because I was so locked up and repressed. It was only after transitioning that I understood the extent of a lot of the bad things that happened to me. But this story is a prime example of the writers not understanding their own story and knowing what they're writing. Because Claremont is so preoccupied with talking about, oh, I have all these secret desires and doing this bad thing made me feel so good.
Yeah.
But, like, whatever, dude. Like,
yeah.
whatever. That's happened, but it's not about that.
Yeah.
You're not contextualizing what Phoenix means within the context of every other story you've written.
Yeah.
Because the stuff with Mesmero, it doesn't matter to her. Like, yeah, like the Wingard stuff's important. Charles saying he was in love with her once, that's important. All of this is important to Jean's journey here and now.
Yeah.
But they don't see this as repression. Like,
that's so true.
There's obviously some aspect of it that they do see as repression, but the repression they're talking about is that we all secretly have a beast inside us that wants to do evil.
That's it.
And that's not what people are like.
No.
People, like Jean, have experienced major traumas, and until she could feel, she didn't know how much she felt.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Amen. That's exactly it.
It's still a story about how a woman had to die because man didn't know what to do with her autonomy.
Oh my god, you're so right.
Or several men.
Oh,
Several men.
men.
Austin, you're all co-plotters.
Yeah,
Anyway, I think we got to lay this girl to rest.
I think so.
It's been a hot minute, but we're going back to Xavier's graveyard. Here lies Jean Grey, the heart and soul of the X-Men. The object of every male X-Man's affection. Maybe now that she's dead, she can finally rest in the peace of not being objectified by all of her colleagues. Owner of the best wardrobe in this comic book, we will sorely miss repeatedly placing her at the top of best dressed lists. She will be missed most of all by her fiancé, Scott Summers, who only managed to propose to her days before her death when he had the opportunity to think his true feelings, but not actually say them. Jean contained both darkness and light, and she had a little freak hiding inside of her, but it was the goodness in her that truly shone through. Despite being attracted to the most disgusting man you've ever seen and having a thing for sideburns attached to mustaches, she did a lot of good in the world, and she will be sorely missed. Rest in peace, Jean Grey. Let us pray. Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy, Lord have mercy.
Jane, have mercy.
And with your spirit. You've never been to church, I can tell.
No,
Never done Catholicism.
Isn't that obvious? I love watching The Departed.
I got nothing.
We got nothing. It's like, God, if I didn't have anything before, it's been emotionally squeezed out of me. A beautiful eulogy, Beth. Thank you very much for your beautiful words on that. You sent our girl out in style.
On that note, we need to end this episode.
We gotta.
We've been recording for hours. This is going to be a hell of an editing job. However long this episode ends up being, I hope you enjoyed the ride. Next episode, Q&A. Thank you, Flatscans. We have been the X-Men, the next stage in human evolution. 2 trans women exploring the X-Men. Signing off. Lord have mercy. And I'll change you like a remix. Then I'll raise you like a phoenix. I had to put my iPad inside the veil because I couldn't read through the veil.
I can see your face slightly better because it's lighting it up, so that's nice.
I got nothing in the tank. We did a great job.
We did.
But I can't remember any of what either of us said.
I just remember we were...
No, I just dropped Coke on my workout mat.
No.
Just let me get some paper towel.